Look, I always think it's really important to be kind of honest with yourself when you're drawing anatomy or when you're studying anatomy, and you should be thinking, okay, am I good enough at this? Am I actually good enough at this, or is there like any little bit of knowledge that I still don't know? Is there any little bit of information that I still that's left for me to discover? And I mean maybe visually, right? So, oh, the shoulder looks like this from this angle when you raise your arm, whatever. And it's important to be honest with you in a way. It's not necessarily about being humble, but you should be in a way just thinking, okay, like assuming that you don't know enough, that your knowledge is not enough, and that you don't know shit basically, and that you need to keep on doing studying it like you're a 5-year-old studying the basics every single time until you 100% know that you know the thing. And so I'm always thinking, okay, what is something I don't know? What is something that I haven't that I feel like I haven't fully figured out? Like for example, the way the front shoulder, it's just like very specific shit, right? Like the way the front shoulder kind of flexes when you raise your arm to the front. But those little things matter. They matter a lot. Okay, so let's raise this guy's shoulder forward. I was thinking, okay, what is the everything has proportions, right? This is something that is kind of weird to explain because nobody talks about this, but it's so fucking important. And it's like, look, if you're gonna draw the legs, for example, if you're gonna draw the legs, they need to have a length, right? So for example, what is it gonna be the length? Here or here? How do you measure this? How do you actually make sure that this is the right length? You know what I mean? Is it this, or is it this? Is it this? Like, how do you just do it by feel? By just like, this feels right. It feels right. My brain's telling you, yeah, it feels right. How do you actually make sure that this is right? You get what I mean? So you need to measure these things. This is something that proportions are not a matter of guessing. Oh, this feels right. No, it's not that, because otherwise you're gonna be like, you're gonna mess up a lot if you rely too much on that. So what you should be doing is measure. I literally grabbed like a fucking cloth hanger to measure my leg, my quads, like my upper leg, and I realized, oh, okay, the length of my leg is kind of the length of the collarbone, all the way down to the top of the pelvis. So I know that if I'm gonna draw a leg, it should be roughly, or not even roughly, it should be this length, right? I say roughly because you can allow yourself to mess up a little bit and it's not gonna matter, but it should be like this. And if it looks off, it's because you didn't respect those proportions. And I'm gonna tell you something. I think this is the reason why drawing faces is so complicated and people have so much issues drawing faces. It's because we take things like proportions for granted. So, for example, I always say this. Since the moment we are born, we are always looking at faces consistently. Hundreds of faces every single day. If you go outside a lot, you're looking at hundreds of faces every single day for your entire life. So you may naturally think, oh, I should be good at drawing faces, right? I don't need to study the facial features as much. No, you need to do it. You need to, like, you think that you're good at it, but it's just a bit of arrogance that we have. And you need to study faces like you're a fucking 5-year old. Like, it's like, oh, okay, how long should, like, I'm gonna explain this better in a minute. But you need to, you need to measure the proportions of everything. Uh, I was actually drawing this. This was from a class from yesterday, but let me just draw it here real quickly. So, for instance, if you're gonna draw a face, let's draw a simple face here. Okay, here we have the eyebrows and the eyes, right? Good. Now you can draw the nose. Where are you gonna draw the nose? Like the same thing with the legs. There should be, the nose should be like a certain length. But how do you figure that out? Because the nose can be like this, right? The nose can be here, or the nose can be here. You get what I mean? It's like, okay, it's not either of these two, but how do we make sure that we're doing it right? How do we make sure that we're not guessing or trying to guess, so we don't draw it like here on the fucking forehead, or we don't draw it here, right, on the floor? Like, how do we make sure that this is the same length? Well, the proper length, because we need to measure it. Even if it's very rough, it's better than nothing. And the face is really hard because it's hard to measure and compare the facial features. So for example, the way that I did it is, okay, I was kind of measuring heads and everything, like face proportions. And I was like, okay, the length of the nose should be roughly the length of the eyebrows and the eyes. So this length, it should be roughly, maybe a little, like, give or take, here. Maybe a little less sometimes. It depends. Maybe if you're gonna draw a more feminine face, you wanna have a shorter, less long, like shorter. You wanna have a shorter nose. Like, you come up with your own stuff. This is something that nobody's gonna teach you. Nobody's gonna teach you this. And even if they do, nobody's gonna teach you everything. Because look, everything has this its own proportions like this. Nobody's really gonna teach you the proportions of everything in comparison to everything, because it's so many fucking things that, you know, nobody's gonna bother to do it. And even if they do, you're not gonna remember ever. So you see how this goes? It's the same thing with the mouth, for example. Okay, we successfully drew the nose, the eyes, and the eyebrows. Now, where do you draw the mouth? Do you draw it here, or do you draw it here? No, right? This is a little bit too long, too on the bottom. But how do we, like, look, if I fuck it up, if I do it like this, if I draw the mouth too low, and I go to like an artist and I ask for critique, the artist is gonna tell me, oh yeah, you drew the mouth too low. But he's not gonna tell me, okay, how can I prevent this from happening again? What are the resources that I need for me not making this mistake again? You know, how do I make sure I draw the mouth in the right place? What is even the right place in the first place? Or am I drawing the mouth too long? The mouth too long? I said mouse. Am I drawing the mouth too long or too short? Those are things that matter. Nobody really talks about, and they're like very oddly specific. Proportions are not too hard. They're actually really easy. But they take a lot of time because it's the proportions of everything. So for example, the proportions of, you have the torso. Why is the torso like this and not like this? You see, it's not arbitrary. It's not about guessing, oh, I think it looks like this. No. You never say, I think it looks like this when it comes to anatomy or proportions. You have to say, it looks like this, period. The reason why the torso is this length is because this area should be roughly one neck, like one neck of space here, of space here. And these are like the shoulders and everything. So it's just stuff like this. You get what I mean? You need to be very observant and mindful of a lot of things, and this is the hard thing. Not even hard. It's hard to figure out, but it's easy to do. Like, this is what it takes. This may seem like a lot of complicated things, but it's actually really easy. Like, you can be a completely brain dead individual like me, and you can pull off like a very nice, like, advanced level when it comes to drawing from memory. Proportions are super important. They're actually the most important thing, because the most important thing aside from perspective, because you can have when you're drawing your face, you don't need to even draw a super complicated face. You can just draw like a blob like this. And as long as your proportions are good, and not only your proportions, but your, well, yes, your proportions, I mean, but your placement as well, and your kind of ratios and stuff. So, for example, imagine this is the head. This is the top of the cranium, and this is the bottom of the chin. Where should be the eyes here? The eyes should always be here in the middle, right in the middle in between these two. Now, if you draw, ideally, you're drawing the eyes like here, right? Now, if you draw the eyes here, you already fucked it up. Because the forehead is going to be ridiculously small like this, right? And you end up gonna be like, oh, but my I have all this extra space here. This is what used to happen to me. Like, actually, if you go back to my drawings from a few months ago, I used to make this mistake a lot. Don't do that, by the way. It's like very embarrassing, but they're really bad. But it's the same principle of proportions, right? You need to know why you're messing up. Yeah, and it's not only the face. Again, this applies to everything, and the human body happens to be particularly hard when it comes to this. If you are studying some other object, it's not going to be as difficult, but the human body and the face, for example, is like really hard. For me, it's like a bit of arrogance. Like, I think people, we have this like arrogance of like, no, I already know what this looks like. It's kind of like we see, just like we see hundreds of faces every day, we see hundreds of cars every single day. If you have cats or pets, you see them every single day, but you can't draw them. There are things that you don't know because you haven't taken the time to fully like purposefully measure and everything. And the same thing with a human body. You have a human body and you've looked at it every single day. Why don't you know how to draw one from imagination if you have one? It's because you haven't taken the time to actually measure it and understand it visually and structurally. When I was like, okay, I'm gonna start drawing faces now, I'm gonna start studying faces, I was thinking, okay, I need to start with the cranium. It makes sense to start with the skull because it's naturally like the underlying structure of the face. It makes sense. It's like common sense that it's gonna help me, right? But in some weird way, it didn't really help me. It did help me understand the anatomy, but not the proportions. So you can kind of make yourself a bit of an idea of how that went. It made me understand the anatomy, but not the proportions. So I was drawing a skull that looked pretty ugly, and on top of that, whenever I wanted to draw an actual face, it would also look very off proportion. Because in some weird way, proportions matter more than anatomy, especially in the beginning. Otherwise, it's gonna look really fucking weird. Yeah, it's a vicious skull, unfortunately. I wish I was rich enough so I don't have to worry about this shit. Oh no, I gotta do the dishes. But if I leave, everyone's gonna leave as well, and I'm gonna be lonely forever. You guys promise you're not gonna leave me if I do? Nah, I'm just kidding. I don't give a fuck. Oh man, yesterday I ate garlic and now my bread smells like shit. You know, something that I'm gonna give you guys this tip for free because I think it's like holy shit. For some reason it works. Something I figured out is that when I'm drawing, I find that I get into a better flow state or a better energy when I try to draw with only one line. I don't know how to explain it. It's like drawing as much as you can with only one line without lifting the pen. And then if you absolutely have to lift the pen, you do it. But you try to draw as much as you can with only one line. For some reason, that is super fucking useful. Don't ask me why. This is a lot of bro science, but I think it just puts you in a very careless energy, but at the same time it forces you to think about what you're doing. It sounds like a very minimal, like minor thing, but trust me, for some reason this works. And this is gonna help you care less about your mistakes and making your lines too perfect. When, I'm gonna say it again, you draw, whether, I don't know, you want to draw a mannequin, you want to draw boxes, or you want to draw actual anatomy, and you try to do as much as you can without lifting the pen, one line only, without scribbling too much, right? You don't want to go like full on weird, sketchy thing. You want to make it clear, but you want to have this like very loose and careless energy. For some reason, this is like very helpful. At least for me, it really helped me get into like a better energy. I don't like the word energy. I don't like using that word because it sounds very wishy-washy. But fuck it. I think it's helpful, so I'm sharing it with you. And I'm also, on top of doing that, I'm drawing slowly. Like, my brushstrokes are slow. I'm not drawing super fast, trying to rush it or anything. I'm not. I don't have. I'm not in a hurry or anything. So what I'm doing is drawing slow, but at the same time I'm drawing with only one line. It's like a weird combination of doing those two things, and it's going to balance a bit this energy of drawing with intention and at the same time drawing in a careless way. Because if you focus on drawing in a loose way too much and being too careless, what's gonna happen is that your drawings are gonna look like shit. But if you focus on having too much intention and trying to make everything look accurate and perfect, your drawings are gonna look like shit as well. They're gonna look like shit, but in a different way. They're gonna look stiff. They're going to look very rigid. I don't know. I guess this is the sweet spot because if you think too much and you are giving too much, like, so let's say I make a line. If I give too much importance to this line and I can't afford to like not care about it. If I think, oh, this line it has to be perfect, right? This line is so important, or I can't afford to fuck it up a little. That's too much. You are being like too over invested into your line, so you need to draw in a more loose way. And for me, this way is just drawing with only one line. Draw with only one line until you necessarily need to lift the pen.